If you're chasing success, how much time would you allocate to selflessly helping others rather than pursuing the projects that you're working on? You know, hustle, hustle, hustle. Hustle never sleeps. Would you take 1 hour a week away from that? 3 hours away from the grind to do pro bono as a way of giving back? Look, my guest today shows how a spirit of giving, a spirit of volunteering is just at the core of his work, and how, through doing things for free, transformed his career into one of complete abundance, not just for his team, but for all of the people he works with as they build one of the largest and most successful YouTube channels on the planet. With nearly 4 million subscribers and over 1 billion views on YouTube, Marty and Moog from Mighty Car Mods have been representing the culture of vehicle modification for over 16 years, and they're only getting bigger. Now, I don't care about cars, G. I don't know, they get me from here to there. You know what? I kind of feel the same way. But what if I told you that Moog's actual name is Blair, and Blair is a prolifically talented multi-instrumentalist composer, and he has created the soundtracks to hundreds, if not thousands, of commercials that you could probably whistle if I mentioned a brand. The Macca's jingle. Yeah, what you just whistled, if you heard it in Australia, Blair played that. Same guy. But not only is Blair one of the hosts of Mighty Car Mods, he's also on Top Gear Australia alongside JLP and Beau Ryan. And the three of them are taking this legendary brand that was never really about cars anyway. They're taking it and really turning it on its head. Blair truly is one of the great ones. He's an absolute inspiration. As you'll hear, he's been through some darkness. He's come out the other side. You're going to absolutely love this one. I couldn't get enough of it. We could have chatted for hours. It was really good. No one's come to my house before and offered and just bestowed merch upon me and my family. That was a first, and thank you.
Oh, no, you're welcome. I was just having a look and a listen at what you're doing, and I really like it.
Thanks, man.
It feels genuine and honest, and it actually feels quite direct. In a world of noise, It feels like if there's Uzis and bzzz, it feels like you're just kind of snipering in at a really nice spot, and I really like it. So
I appreciate that, mate. Thank you so much. That's the idea. Hopefully being able to use my particular set of skills.
It's working.
And deployed in a way that can help people.
Deployed. It's working. It's good.
I've been doing, like you, man, I've been doing this 10 years now.
Yeah, right.
So, this is the year 11. Well, in podcasting, at least.
Yeah, wow. I've never done a podcast. I think, and I've never even been the subject of one. I did one recently with the ABC, All in Your Mind. Have you heard that?
Yeah, that's a good one.
So I was the subject on one of those. And maybe that's all I've done.
Well,
so this might be like the only, maybe the second podcast I've ever done.
It's very difficult to be quite good at music without also having a brain for at least maths or patterns or that sort of thing.
Yeah.
How early on did you realize that might also apply to the way that mechanical things work?
Gee, that's a good question. You do this properly, don't you?
That's my job.
You do this properly. That's very good. You know what? I don't really feel like I'm that good at mechanical stuff. Marty that I do the show with, I feel is like next level. Like he's amazing. I always like to find out how things work, and I pull apart circuits and I do things like that, but it doesn't really come easy to me. I find that difficult. Music though, I always found you would never have to ask me to practice when I was a kid. Just play for hours and hours and hours. And I would sit there and couldn't read music, still can't. And so the piano teacher that I had, Mrs. Whale, she was amazing. Hello, Mrs. Whale. We'd been learning pages and pages of stuff, but because I couldn't read it, I would have to learn it and practice it. And she'd say, no, the note is this. And I'd kind of be nodding, pretending, because I couldn't read what was actually going on. But I could just live on a piano. I could just live on it and play all day. And in fact, recently I found the piano that I used to play when I was younger, like a student, I've got a nice piano now, like a baby grand piano.
Nice.
But I found one that I'd used in my early career and just bought it again because it doesn't sound as good. It's not as technically correct, but I just like the feeling of it being imperfect, and it makes me feel like exploring again.
How did you study at university music if you couldn't read it?
Well, I can read. I mean, I can read it. I can read it if it's in front of me. But what I mean is, I can't sight read it. You know, some people can go. I can't do it. Like I can work it out, but it feels like I'm like that. I was really interested in composition, though. I wanted to write my own music, and so I would always be playing And my teacher would be like, no, that's not what it does. But I was like, I just want to make it my own thing.
I still get a great amount of joy listening to a perfectly constructed pop song.
Yes.
That is way harder than anyone could possibly imagine.
Oh, absolutely. Try and write one. That's the thing. You know, try and write a song. And what I've loved doing, you know, I used to work as a volunteer with Youth Off the Streets, and I'd work with kids at a school called Key College, and I would teach them music. And I did that as a volunteer for so long that eventually I loved it and started working in a performing arts high school, MacDonald College, which is a private performing arts high school. And I had kids from year 5 to year 12, and I worked there for 5 years, and my job was just to teach them how to write music. Amazing. And it was just, it's like one of the greatest things I've ever done. Like, I love it. I want to get back to that when I have some more time. Like, I just love it. And when somebody, when you're teaching somebody something and it finally kind of clicks and they go, oh, I get it, a chord or a lyric or something, I love that, man. I'm all for that. Nothing beats that.
You're playing piano. You're at the Conservatorium of Music, which the Queensland one I auditioned to 3 times.
I just did my exams there. I was doing private lessons, and I just went there once a year to do my kind of exams and stuff.
Right. But you studied music, right?
I did. So in year 12, I wanted to do psychology. My mum wanted me to be a chiropractor. We compromised, and I did a music degree.
Nah.
And one of my friends said to me at the last minute, you should change your preferences. I changed, and I went and did like an open day at University of Western Sydney. They were doing a contemporary music degree. So it's like you could go there and learn modern music, music that was written, modern meaning in the last 200 years, you know. And I applied for that, and I got in. The first year, I just got smoked by like everybody, because the first year there was lots of performance. And I'm out there trying to play Michael Nyman's The Hard Ass Pleasure First from the piano. I don't know if you know that song.
Mate, I listen to a lot of Michael Nyman. I think it's fantastic.
And I was a big fan of him, but one of our lecturers was like, he's just a fake minimalist hanging up with the real minimalist. I was like, man, he got some minimalist themes and made a really beautiful score. But anyway, only in the second year when they said, now you can take your electives, and there's a job where you can just write music and you're a composer. And I did that as an elective, and I was like, my life just changed forever. Right. I was like, it's the real deal.
For people that don't understand death metal, for a lot of people, I like today, I got to work and I was like, guys, you got to hear this new High on Fire record. I'm that guy. I will punish you if I show up with a new album.
Oh, I know
I did
you
it
will.
To you the day I met you.
The day you came to my recording studio, I'm like, hey, nice to meet you. And you're just like, shh, listen to this. I was just like, all right, we're going to get along fine.
I played you Conan that day. So I did that today. I showed up to work and I said, I think my vasectomy just got reversed. Listen to this. And sure enough, you know, it's unbelievable. But there's some music that, how shall I put this? If I'm running late, there's some music that will make sure I get there on time.
That was me on the way to you today. I was listening to Error, E-R-R-A. I don't know if you've heard before, but they're excellent. Check it out.
I can't wait.
You'll love it.
When you were young and you're getting behind the wheels for the first time, were your folks concerned in any way?
No. I had Cannibal Corpse on cassette. And so I was rolling around in a Holden Camaro with a cassette deck, and I had this kind of bass cannon thing up the back, and I'll just listen to a bass cannon is like a subwoofer, but instead of being in the normal kind of enclosure, it's just a cylinder with a speaker on one end, and it sits on the parcel shelf, so you can't see out your rear vision mirror anymore.
Naturally.
And you just drive around listening to metal like that.
Did people have to like leave you money for the gas money when you were just doing?
So some of them asked me to. I asked for it, but I don't think my parents were too worried. I stopped drinking when I was 17 years old. I drank a bit when I was a teenager. And I mean, not to a really problematic amount, but but on my 17th birthday, I got really drunk and I spewed everywhere. And I looked up and I saw my friends having a great time. And they dragged me outside, and I just went, "This is shit." And I think a lot of people have got into that point and they've gone, "Oh, this is terrible," and then the next day they do it again. I was just like, this is a waste of time. It's shit. I'm missing out. It's not good for my brain. It's not good for my body. There's nothing good about what's going on for me now at all. And I just stopped. And so I haven't been drunk since then. I'm 46 this year. So like, I don't know, what's the mass of that? 30 years almost. But after not drinking at all for maybe 15 years, I started to have a drink again at toasts and things like that, because I went through a period of my life where I went, I'm vegetarian, I don't eat meat. I don't drink, I don't do... Lots of walls and lots of rules were coming up, and I really didn't like it. And so I had to start knocking them down because I didn't want to feel restricted in that way. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
I do, yeah.
I felt like I had my line in the sand, but at the same time I didn't want to be covered in lines. I didn't want to be in a circle in the sand. You know what I mean?
So when you have a drink and a toast or everything, is it
feels fine. Like I was never an alcoholic or anything. I don't like how I feel when I drink, and so now I'll have a beer and like that's fine.
I'll tell you the other version of that. The other version is like you drag you outside, get 17 years old, vomiting through my nose so hard that my capillaries on my eyelids are bursting because I'm vomiting, that much pressure is bursting. I look like I've got black eyes, and then going, I mustn't have been doing it right. I know. I'll try starting with tequila rather than ending with tequila.
Oh,
Give it another go.
That's the other way.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then, now we're like 14 years in. Fuck. So you've got the Holden Chimera, which is not exactly the
it's not the height of
not the weapon of choice.
No, it's not.
For kind of early 2000s, mid 2000s. I'm guessing it was a hand-me-down or
yeah,
something.
It was.
Yeah.
It was an L-plater car that a school had used, and it had done the whole cycle. It had gone all the way around. I bought it with only 40,000 Ks. It turned out it was like 1,040,000 or something.
Excellent.
Nasty.
So at what point, though, did, this car's not quite what I want it to be. I might kind of fuck with this a bit. I might make this a little more mine beyond putting a base cannon in.
Yeah.
When did that show up?
Well, it showed up. I'd found out about this car called a Nissan Silvia that was really popular in Japan. And I was like, this is the coolest. And back then, you could buy them, and they made non-turbo versions of them. They were called a Nissan Silvia Q with an SR20, a 2-litre engine. They also made a K, which was a turbo, but we weren't allowed to drive those, or they were more expensive. So I found one and I bought it, and I went, this car is shockingly good. It's amazing. It was getting serviced at a local mechanic. And then he dropped all the fluids out of the radiator, and he called me and he said, there's a bushfire, really bad bushfires that were in northwestern Sydney at that time. And the bushfire came through and just destroyed my car. So it was kind of burnt to the ground. I remember seeing it. The last time I saw the car was on Channel 10 News with a helicopter dumping water down, around it. And so because of insurance and other things, I couldn't afford to get another car the same, which is where I kind of found out that you can import cars from Japan. And they're cheaper. And there's certain cars that you can bring in under a specialist enthusiast scheme. So I found out about this car called a 180SX, which is the same kind of engine, but it's just an awesome, cool car. And so I managed to buy one of them from Japan for $6,000. And when it arrived, then I was like, man, I didn't know what I was doing, but it was a drift car. It had obviously hit a wall and there were problems. And so I had to learn to fix the fiberglass on the front bar, how to service it, just do all those kind of basic things. And I was like, I don't know, it just felt really empowering to fix the things around you. So instead of just being like a passenger in life going along, you actually have to stop and you have to fix the stuff around you. And I really liked that you're kind of relying on yourself rather than, hey, I mean, it's obviously fine to ask for help, and I still am when I need help with car stuff, but it was a nice feeling just to go, the car needs a service, I can buy the stuff and I can fix it. And yeah, it was a good feeling. I still don't feel like I'm very good at it. That's all.
Well, I think squillions of people who watch your YouTube stuff would beg to differ. I know the Nissan Silvia well. My youngest brother had one.
Yep. Is he alive still?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they're all four of us are still alive.
Okay. Just I don't know. Silvia drivers sometimes when they're young, it's a really fast car, really powerful car. Lots of accidents. I mean, which is a serious note. I was asking you in a jovial manner.
No.
Yes.
But no, it's okay. So he and Marty, my other brother who introduced us, Ed bought a front half of a Nissan Skyline.
Of course, he did a half cut.
The back of it was bung.
That's what happens.
He brought it in.
They
from
cut
Japan.
them through the middle. We've made a whole video on how they make half cuts in Japan.
And he brought that car over, and then he put that engine in the Silvia.
Oh, so he's handy.
And and then we used liquid nitrogen to freeze all the inside of it out, and then ripped it all apart. And
yeah, wow.
Yeah. I think it went around corners, but not front ways.
Yeah,
it went around sideways quite a bit.
That's what they do.
Yeah, so I'm aware of the world of Nissan Silvia.
It's
the secret
drifting.
It's the secret
drifting society.
It is, man. And having been to Japan a few times, there's really something about the engineering history in that country that just absolutely is unfathomable.
It's why we keep going back. We try and get there every year and go to the factories, meet the people, buy the cheapest cars we can, just because I think a lot of the time the cars that are celebrated are just always these really expensive cars that are kind of everyone go, oh, one day I'll buy a Bugatti or something. And I totally get that. And, you know, I'm hosting Top Gear. I get that the cars are exciting and that kind of thing. But at the same time, I think there's something worth celebrating normal everyday cars that you can have adventures in, because ultimately they're about adventures, right? Like what use is a car unless you can do something with it?
So you have known Marty, who you work with on Mighty Cars, for some time now.
Can I tell you a funny story about that?
I am hoping you do.
So I was working in Redfern at a production company. It's very hard getting jobs as a full-time musician. I'd say almost impossible. So when I finished music school, I was trading music for stuff to save me having to buy it. So I'd ring up and I need tires for my car, and when the company would put me on hold, it'd go, and when they'd get back off hold, I'd say, you know what, you could have a little system there that says, hey, did you know we also do alignments and pink slips and whatever? If you want, I do that for a business. Of course I didn't, but I made some cheap business cards. I'll do you one. I know you said the tires were, you know, $400. My stuff costs about $600. I'll do you a trade. Do you know how many people took me up on that offer? Every single person.
Wow.
Because they're like, imagine you're running a small business and someone goes, do you want me to do something for you? I'll do it in entirety. I'll install it, I'll record it, I'll deliver it. And every single time someone's on hold, you'll be telling them about your services. So I wasn't earning any money doing music, but I was getting resources in by using music. And so I would make the music, record the voiceover, welcome to Osher's Tire Power, you know, whatever the thing was. And so
We've
I
actually
started...
actually, if you buy 3, we'll give you the 4th one free.
Yeah, but we'll probably charge you the same amount as
Hey,
for
it's
the
a
3.
secret to the tyre game. Don't be blinded out the window here, Blair. Come on, man.
So I was doing that, pornos. I was doing fitness videos,
Did you
yoga
say
videos.
pornos?
Yep, and I even did music for some of them. And I was doing late night sexy ads.
Whoa.
You know, do you remember those SMS ads where you
0055?
Yeah, SMS. You know, sexy blonde, and Osher will send you a photo. You know, that kind of stuff.
Oh my gosh.
So I was doing music for those,
and they would start at $1.99.
I never did it. I don't know.
But yeah, they were like
they
premium.
did?
They were premium SMS.
Were they?
Those businesses made so much money.
You spent a bit on that?
No, like because they were the similar people that did the. Not saying they were, but it was a similar system. Like it was the back end of all the voting on Idol.
Oh right.
And they were premium SMS was crazy, like $4 a text.
See, that's a better way of putting it. When someone says, "How did you start your music career?" I'm going to say I was writing original music for premium SMS ads. That sounds a bit better, doesn't it? I just remember the ad said message leggy blonde too, and then it inserts some number. And I always wondered though, like, what did you get back? Because I never did it. I don't know. I just did the music.
I think you got a text saying, "What do you think?" I think it must have been the sales funnel that hooked you into a phone call. It's like, if you want, we can talk, and it's like $20 a minute or something crazy like that. I think that's what, like, in a time before the internet porn, this is what
that's what people did
would do. And before Tinder, like that's
Yeah,
I mean, it was.
I don't know how many long-term relationships kicked off with the 0055 number though.
I don't know. I've been to 3 Tinder weddings. So
have you?
Yeah,
they're working.
Yeah.
And so, but what I really want to do is, though, I want to be a film composer. And so, how do you become a film composer? You got to find film directors. And so, I went around to different film schools and I put up signs on the wall saying, "I'll do your music for 10% of budget." And I had my details on there. And then people would contact me, and usually the budgets were $200 or $300. So for $20, I'd do the music for their films, Tropfest films, stuff like that. And I remember one guy did his film for $20. And recently, you got to keep all your receipts and invoices for 7 years. I'd had stuff that was 20 years old, and I was throwing it all out. And I found an invoice that was unpaid from one of the short films, and it had the guy's name on it. And I just looked on Facebook out of interest, and I found the guy who was still working in film and TV. And I just went, because he owed me $20, and he's owed me $20 since the late 90s. And I just sent him a message, and I just went, "Hey, like, I don't know if you remember me, but I did this music for your film, and it was called this," because I had all the information on there. You still owe me $20, but if you give it to me, I'll donate it to Reach Out, which is a mental health charity that I support. And he didn't get back to me, and I was just like, "Cool, like I'm just posting the invoice up then." So I just posted that up on Facebook, and just as I was hitting post, a better part of me went, maybe just blank his name. And so I did blank his name because I put it up there. People were rabid, man. They wanted that. They wanted me to get paid that $20 because a lot of people saw that as its indication of how composers are treated, which is we are the last bastion before the film comes out. Same as TV commercials. There's the creative, there's the funding, it's produced, it's graded, it's edited. At the very end, it comes to us. And then really, as a way, we get to kind of decide what the fate of the ad is, you know, in conjunction with directors and producers. And then to not get paid the $20 felt like a bit of a slap in the face.
I can't wait to find out who it is.
Yeah, I'll show you after.
I can't wait to see
I just, you know what? I'm going to try sending him another message because I reckon he'd do good on it. Like most people in film and TV I've met have been.
It wasn't Scott
good
Ryan,
people.
was it? Was it like Mr. In Between? Because that was a Trop Fest film.
No.
Okay.
No, it wasn't.
But so what would you say then about swimming out to the boat rather than letting the boat come to shore and pick you up? Like you talked about it with being on the phone. You've talked about it with putting your sign up. What would you say to people about just going out and asking people, hey, I've got this thing that I can do. Can I do it with you?
Everybody's interested in what they can get for themselves, but what they don't realize is nobody cares what they want. What everybody cares about is what you can do for them in that moment. And obviously it can be a symbiotic relationship. But if you go out there and you say, I want to be famous, I want to win Idol, I want a job for you, I want to, you know, whatever, it's like, that's not going to work. And so when I kind of wanted to try and get more music work, I got the Yellow Pages and I found 30 different production companies because I realized contacting music studios, it was never going to happen. Can I come there? Like the producers that are coming in are contractors. You don't work there. So I contacted 30 different production companies. I sent them all letters. And in the letter, what the letter said was, I'm a composer with a studio and a degree. I'll work for you for free, no cost. But if you value add your services by adding music on there, let's just do a 50-50 split. So one of those companies got back to me and said, we've got a spare room that's about the size of this room that we're in now. I reckon it was probably 3 meters by 4 meters approximately. And they said, look, we've got this space and there's a desk. If you want to set up there, we'll start offering music out as the services. And usually they were selling my music services for about $800, which to me, I think is huge. Like it's, to me, that was unheard of. And of that, I would get $400.
Yeah.
That's enough for a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And so I really had this mentality of music for music. Every dollar I would earn, I would buy a better microphone. I mean, I can tell your setup here is proper, you know, like it is. You've got proper gear. It's set up. It's arranged properly. You've got this haunted little thing that's going around over here. So I put all of the music back into it, and I wasn't waiting for anyone. I don't feel like anyone owes me anything. I don't feel like I'm special. I don't feel like I'm the chosen one of the music thing. I don't feel like I'm especially talented.
There's people you would have done that contemporary music course with. There's people that have been there that, because it takes a lot to actually put your hand up and say, hey, this is what I do, even for no money. This is what I do. Yeah. I'd like to do it for you for no money. That, like, I can relate to that because every break in my career has come because I have gone out and jumped up in the path of the comet.
Yes.
I haven't asked the comet to come down and get me.
Yeah.
If I've ever sat around waiting for the comet to get me, I just pay rent out of my savings and run out of money. That's what's happened. So it's only when I've jumped up and been in the pathway of where it is I want to go.
Yeah, but so here's my question for you then. Why did you jump in the first place?
I couldn't not.
Yeah. So why not? Why not though?
I couldn't not do it.
Can we jump? Do you mind jumping into that for a bit?
No, not at all.
So what would happen if you didn't? Let's pretend there was a world you didn't. What would happen if you didn't jump?
I just had so much, and I think particularly, one of the really powerful ones was radio. How I got my job in radio, because I hand wrote letters. I was just like, I have something that is bigger than everywhere I can put it, and I need for somewhere for this thing to go. It has to go somewhere, and I was just driven by this. It wasn't itchy, but it was a feeling that if I would burst if I didn't find a place for this thing to go. And this thing has ended up being the thing that became my career. Yeah. Basically, that's the only way. I've never been asked that. That's the only way I can describe it.
I'm just wondering, if you can imagine a world in which you didn't jump, what your life would have looked like.
Well, I know
because potentially we can distill from this conversation, which I think could be the most valuable part of this podcast. We could try and distill what it is that made you jump, what it is that made me go to the Yellow Pages. Right. If we can work out that thing, I think there's a lot of people that might be inspired to do something similar. Well, potentially. I'm not saying we have the secret sauce. I'm just saying we did something similar.
Right. Well, I know what the option looks like, and as the aforementioned drinking got worse and worse and worse and worse, and I just stopped jumping. All right, because for a while the comet was coming down and smashing my door, and I just expected it would never ever stop.
Yeah, okay.
And when I didn't put any effort into that, the phone stopped ringing, the people stopped knocking, the bills stopped getting paid, and I realized, all right, I have to, I can't not do this.
Yeah. Okay.
When what I would say as well is now I know what I know about dealing with discomfort and dealing with uncomfortable feelings. Just putting up, I put posters all over Adelaide when I first moved there. Like the second day I got there, I was like, oh my God, I have to do something. And I put posters all over the place going, I play theremin. I'd love to come and play theremin.
Yeah, see, but did you really though?
Yeah, I do.
You played a Moog theremin?
Yeah, I built it. Yeah, it's.
You're telling me all the right things. I mean, this is the stuff that gets me going. By the way,
we're here. But that action point, even like one person called me and it led to a pretty interesting story. But even if nobody calls,
I love this so much.
Even if nobody calls, that moment of action in the direction of my values, in the direction of what it is that I want to be in the world, makes that bursting feeling go away.
Yep.
All right. And as long as I'm able to take a step in any direction, as long as it's in the direction of the values that I hold, who I am, what it is I want to put in the world, it makes that feeling subside, and it feels like I've gained something, even if nobody calls me back.
Yeah.
That is the absolute honest answer.
Yeah.
Would that be the same?
I think so. It's funny though, because when you tell me about it, to me that seems really special and like you've got something special going on. And I was like, how do I get some of that? Do you know what I mean?
It's like, see my acceptance commitment therapy psych. She's fantastic.
Because it's kind of, I never felt like there was a comet at my door. I never felt like anything good was happening. I never felt like I deserved anything good. I didn't feel the opposite. I didn't feel like I didn't deserve it, but I felt like I had to work for, like I didn't feel like anyone was coming to give me anything.
Yeah, right.
I didn't feel like they owed me anything.
Yeah.
And I also felt, which I think is problematic for a lot of artists, I felt like my music could be transactional, and I was okay with that.
Yeah.
And so I know when I finished my music degree and I was doing commercials, lots of people had a problem with that, because they're kind of like it's selling out. And so
I'm an artist.
Yeah. And well, people said to me, they go, I've been to music school. I did an honours degree. I was there for 4 years. I studied the greats. I wrote a lot of music that I was proud of. I wrote heaps of crap music, of course I did. But then afterwards, I was like, I really want to do film and TV. Like Spielberg's not calling you when you finish music school, but a cat food ad is, a 0055 ad is, a yoga video is, your corporate videos are. So I'm like, I will do all of these things because I know where it is that I want to go. But I remember I was doing it really stood out to me. I was doing lectures back then, like I knew what I was talking about, which is funny now, but about what it's like to work in music. And I spoke about what I knew. And I was at the National Museum down in Canberra, and it was meant to be a music symposium, but they opened up my my 1 hour presentation to the public. Come and speak to this guy who's done whatever music.
Yeah.
And during question time, this kid stood up at the back, and he's just like, "What does it feel like to be a sellout as a musician?" Like hardcore, like good on him actually, like ballsy question. But I was like, what does it mean? Like, let's have the conversation, because I want to try and work it out with you. What does it mean? Like what does it mean to be a sellout? And he's like, well, I think if you swap.
You asked him?
Yeah, in front of 100 people. I'm
like, that's good. Back it up, kid.
Let's define what it is.
Back it up, mate.
And then I'll give you an answer.
Black t-shirt. Did he have any idea of your death metal things? Where you're like, dude, you want to talk about you wouldn't know them when you ask about my band? Like, I invented you didn't know them. You wouldn't know them. You wouldn't know this band. Like, come on.
Well, his definition was, as soon as there's any kind of money changing hands, it's not art anymore. So obviously didn't have any understanding of how theatre came about, or opera, or all the wonderful pieces of music that were commissioned,
or visual art, like the patrons who let Michelangelo sit there for months,
yes,
in front of you know.
But that was the thing, was like, money shouldn't change. I get what he's saying. It's like, let's keep it pure as we can, okay? And so I'm like, well, it's, what do you do for a job? And I've told this story once before, but he said he worked in an office, and I said, what kind of stuff do you have to do in the office? And he said, well, I'm doing a music degree. He was a second-year music student. They're like the year 9 kids at school. I know a bit, but not enough, usually. And he's like, I'm a second-year music student. I work in an office. I said, what do you do in the office? He goes, I do photocopying. And it's like, so before you do your photocopying, like, what happens? And he's like, well, someone hands me a bit of paper and they tell me to copy it. And I said, would you prefer they handed you a guitar and asked you to play it? And he just stopped for a second, and I think he kind of went, oh, and I was like, man, it doesn't have to be art. It can be a job. You can separate it. And I'll keep my art to myself. I'll be at home by myself and play piano with no music, no recording, no whatever, and I'll get in the flow and I'll do that. But on the next day, when a soft drink company or a car company says, can you do music for us, and we want it in the style of whatever it is, I'm happy to use my skills and use the tools I have to do that. And obviously doing music for ads is lucrative, you know. And I was an employee for most of my career, but some of the music that I wrote sold for, you know, over $100,000 for one song, 60 seconds of music, you know, that you do in a day.
Wow.
And so that money would all go to someone else and I'd get my day's wage. But what I started to realize is music has real value, and there's a real specific niche to someone giving you 30 seconds and saying we need it to be all of these different things and then conclude and then do this all in a time is, I think, harder than writing a pop song in a way.
I've always wanted to know, and I'm sure there's probably a feature-length film in the 5 notes into the Macca's jingle.
Well,
There's probably an entire
but is it
thing.
those notes? That's a major third. It turns out it's a minor third, so it's not ba 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 ba. It's ba 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 ba.
Oh, it is too.
Which is different, right? But for a while, because they'd go, here's the Macca's thing, I'd do the music and ba da ba ba ba. That's how they went to telly. And I was like, hey. And then one day someone's like, are you doing them right? And I was like, I think so. And they're like, have another listen, because I think it's a Justin Timberlake song that he's
Yeah.
And then I have a listen, and I was like, I've been doing them wrong. And so yeah. So
hang on, let me guess. It passed everybody and was on
yeah,
air.
no, it passed everyone. It was on air. Yeah. It was fine. But it's also when you're doing something in major, it's like everyone's happy. Then it kind of feels.
Whoa.
Anyway.
That was you playing that guitar. I love that.
Sometimes, I mean, lots of different people were doing them. Just for a period of time, I was doing them.
I love that. You're here because you host Top Gear. Not because Marty Carmod's and the billion views and the however many subscribers. It's hundreds of millions, I'm sure. But I love the fact that we're talking about music.
We're talking about the Macca's jingle.
No, really, I do. I love that, because that's an extraordinary thing that a guy that misrecorded the McDonald's jingle that went out in Australia and probably sold a squazillion McRibs and burgers and shit.
Oh, mate, we're doing music for the States as well.
Oh, bro. So, you're killing it, right? Gets a gig as someone who's driving sideways on Top Gear.
Yeah. Sometimes in a straight line.
Sometimes in a straight line.
I want to finish a question that you asked me before, which was how I met Marty, and I'll be quick with this one because it's music related. I was working in Redfern, doing all of these crummy jobs. Read in the newspaper about this school that was in Surrey Hills. It was called Key College. It was run by Youth Off the Streets. My understanding was the school was funded, and New South Wales, they fund per kid. And very small school, maybe victims of homelessness, drug abuse, sexual abuse. It gets me quite emotional just remembering, actually, some of the kids that were there. And I read in the paper that the story, as I remember it, they had a couple of teachers there, maybe 2 teachers, and they weren't doing much art and much music. And I had this real realization as someone in my early 20s. I was like, if you haven't been sexually abused, you're not living on the street, you're not from a family of drug-affected parents, you can go to your local school, you can do music, you can do art, you can do dance. If you've had these other horrible things happen to you, you end up in a scenario where, yes, you're going to school, and I don't quite understand how the schooling system worked or how they did it, but what I did know is that the kids weren't getting music stuff done. And I was like, these are people who I think they should. And so I read about the school in the paper. The next day I went down there and I said, I'll come and teach music, I'll volunteer. I've got a degree and I'm happy to go. And I remember them saying, that the kids don't take to new people that well coming in. And so if we're just like, Blair's your music teacher now, it might not be that good. And so I managed to find a way to kind of ninja myself in that the next week I said, can I just come at lunchtime? I'll just hang out and teach the kids music. So I came at lunchtime, which is like 1 o'clock or something. And the next week I came like 10 minutes later. And the next week I was like halfway through lunch. The next week near the end of lunch. The next week the staff's like, Blair's late. He wasn't able to make it. And the kid's like, And then I get there at the end of lunch at like 1:45 and it's like, looks like it's going to be class time.
Right.
And so I ended up volunteering there for years.
Wow,
and so
cool.
every single Tuesday I would take Tuesday off work and I would go and work with the kids. And I loved doing that so much that one day I just Googled music teaching jobs in Sydney, and I found out there was a job going for a composer in residence at the Macdonald College, which is a performing arts high school. And I went down there, I put my application in, and it got down to me and another guy. And I remember going down there, and I used to love going to Newtown. I bought a really fancy leather jacket for cheap for like $40. I think I was wearing some velvet pants and Doc Marten boots and probably a band t-shirt or something. And I went down for my interview, and I said, love music, not a real music teacher as in New South Wales Department of Education, but I'd love to teach. And they took my application and one other person's application, and they gave them to the young guy who was running the school's recording studio. He'd just finished year 12, and they said, this is the new composers. It's either this person or this person. You can choose, because you're going to be working with them, who you would like. That person chose me, and that person was Marty Mulholland, who I do Mighty Car Mods with. And so I started working at the school, and we connected over music and education long before we connected over cars. We worked together at a school teaching music in a classroom together. And only one day when we went down to the car park, I had my 180SX. He had a Subaru, and he's like, "You've got a cool car?" And I'm like, "You've got a cool car?" And then we went for a drive, have a little, whatever. And from that point onwards, we were like, man, this is cool. Like, we're both into cars. We're both into music. He was playing in a band. And then the 30-second version is there's this new website called YouTube. We should make some videos. There was no monetization, no sponsors. No one was making money. No one was cool. No one was famous.
Yeah.
And we just started making videos for fun, teaching people how to fix their cars. I would come up with some scenarios, my crappy cars initially. Marty would do all of the work because he was excellent with that stuff. He's very, very talented with that. And we just kept going. It's been 16 years. It's over 1 billion views, and we love it. So that happened. And then, about 14 or 15 years into that, I got an email from the BBC asking if I wanted to audition for Top Gear. And I was like, it's got to be a joke. So I said no. I was like, no, thanks. But they were persistent.
Clearly a show that you would have been a fan of.
And I mean, it was, in some ways it was funny because I think back in the day there was, Top Gear was like, supercars driving around in Mighty Car Mods was Daihatsus and Nissans and stuff. So it felt quite different.
Yeah.
But that's how that happened. And now in a kind of a strange, weird world, I ended up as one of the hosts, and now I'm hanging out with you and we're talking about Macca's jingles. So that's the story of how Marty and I met.
There's probably so that was important that we talked about that, because I'm really glad that you took the gig, because I think it's really important that someone who is you did that job. Not to say that Lepags and
Beau Ryan's his name.
Equally awesome. But the fact that you did that and the pedigree that you bring to it is astounding. So you're a person that thinks about the world a lot. You have seen the way the media landscape is changing. Mm-hmm. There's probably very few people that could actually answer this question correctly. Well, with the kind of insight that you have. Now that you have the experience, including the publicity, there's a publicist sitting in my lounge room behind this wall.
You or for me?
For you.
Making sure I behave.
Yeah, Heidi's out there.
Really?
Yeah, she's sitting out there. Yeah.
So what, you're not allowed to swear or anything?
No, you can swear whatever you like.
Just kidding. Far out.
Knowing these two worlds, one which was, as you mentioned, this little website that wasn't even acquired by Google when you arrived, and one is this just behemoth that has a humongous share of the ad market, and now, well, to say the tables are turned would be an understatement. Now you've seen how both worlds operate. What's your take on things?
Oh, there's neither of them can do the other as well as the other. That's what I've realised. There's something that's quick and instant about YouTube, in that if people don't like things, you can just kill the character off, even if that's a car. You can start working on something if people don't like it. What's interesting with Top Gear is we've finished shooting it now. No one's seen anything. So in a way, you're fully committing, and I think that takes a certain kind of verve, a certain kind of confidence to know what you're doing. And I was very pleased to hear that this show was being made with a lot of the key crew that have been making the show for 20 years, in terms of executive producers, directors and things, with some Australian crew as well. What I didn't quite understand when they were interested in me doing the show, I was like, I don't like supercars, really. I'm not really attracted to them. And I don't really want to be kind of out there telling people I like them, because I don't. And that to me was a really important conversation, because they're like, you don't have to. Like we're not going to write a script and give you a bit of paper where you have to go, I like supercars because they're really special. Like, if you don't like it, say you don't like it. But also try and give yourself the latitude to maybe you will. And so that's the mindset I went into it. I went, I'm just going to be as honest as I can about things, because I think that with my understanding of Top Gear anyway is that that all things supercar are celebrated. And to me, I'm into more affordable adventures with little cars that you can buy off the internet. And so so if they were keen with that, then I was keen with that. But the other thing that I wasn't sure about is that I remember at one point when we were shooting Italy or somewhere like that, and we had to stop to get some food, and we walked into like a little restaurant, and they said, how many tables, how many people? There's 55 people. 55 people? What do you all do? And they were all busy all the time, and all the most lovely, beautiful, professional people I've ever met in my life. But I was like, I'm used to working with maybe 2 people at them. Like there's me and Marty and a camera guy. It used to be just the 2 of us, but then there'd be a camera guy because we'd be driving around the track and we'd need externals. Sometimes we get a drone person in. Like that's about it. So to me, it was just really amazing and educational to see what it looks like when you get the big machine. You start the machine up and then off they go, and they're just... It's amazing education, because I don't think you can buy your way in. I don't think you can say, I want to be a host of Top Gear Australia, here's $1 million, let me do it. And so I was obviously full of I don't know if I can do what you need from me. Like I can only bring myself to it. You know what I mean? Like if you need me to be like one of the other people you've had, I'm not going to be able to do it. Or you need me to do this because it's like I can only do that. And they were like, they'd obviously seen lots of videos and went like, we know what it is you do, just bring that.
Yeah.
That was nice.
I have a similar thing with supercars. Like I used to sleep at night every night with a poster of a red Lamborghini Countach next to my bed.
Yeah. Okay.
And as I grew up a bit, I was like, I think it was an Alpine car stereo poster that I got from the place down the road. And as I grew up a bit, I was like, actually, you know what? Maybe, like, I think it's just a giant piece of new money wank. I'll drive one. If you say, hey, do you want to give it a go? I'll give it a go.
Yeah.
I don't want to park one in my driveway.
Yeah, I mean,
it seems more trouble than it's worth.
But what you realise is that there's a lot of people putting a lot of brains and a lot of time and a lot of engineering to make a car do that thing, and that's what I think I appreciate.
Oh yeah, that's
more.
fantastic. It's just not for me.
Because before I was just like, it's just in my do not box.
Yeah.
No. Not it. Like you mentioned, Supercar, nah. Whereas to actually go, explain to me why it does this. Oh, I guess that's actually pretty clever. And to drive it, it actually feels pretty good, and it's actually pretty fast. And so those things kind of really had to push my ideas a bit of going like, I'm the Nissan guy. Well, you know.
First time I saw a Bugatti Veyron, it was pull up at
that's a wild looking thing, isn't it?
The valet at the SLS in Los Angeles, and the guy.
Of course it was.
Yeah, I think it was Sam's car, Sam who runs it. And he got out, and I looked across at this thing, and the heat haze coming off, I think it was 12 in the back, I think.
Okay.
It's the fucking gigantic
I don't
motor.
know.
It's
I know about Nissans.
You talked about 60 cents a litre. I think it was like $5 or $6 a gallon at the time.
Right.
Like he would have spent $100 driving 20 Ks.
Yeah, and probably loved every bit of it.
Every bit of it. It's like, okay, bud, if that's the thing you want to do, you go right. It's not for me. A car that gets me from here to there, and it's nice. And that's nice.
I think what's interesting about that is that I didn't know Beau and JLP before shooting this show, and they were so enthusiastic about the cars. Like seeing Beau get in a Ferrari, he's just like,
frothing, I love him.
Just frothing.
He's a child. I love him. He's
just
amazing.
Absolutely loving it. And so that was really infectious to see, because I was like, oh, that's the effect that this car has.
Yeah.
Because I kind of was like, I feel like I couldn't even wear a fancy watch if I wanted to. Like I'm kind of, I'm trying to be open about lots of things, but there's certain parts of me that are closed to things that I feel are more valuable than what I deserve.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean by that?
I do.
It's like I would wear a basic watch or basic clothes and have a decent car, but I felt like even if I wanted something fancy, I wouldn't allow myself to have it because it represents a part of me that I don't like.
Look, there's a phrase. It's translated into English. It means millionaires wear Gucci, billionaires wear New Balance.
Yeah, right.
And if you shake a
YouTubers wear Nike high tops.
The other version is if you shake a full piggy bank, it doesn't make any noise.
Oh, I like that.
Which is the other one I really like. And that's what really strikes me about you. There's a humility about you, but there's also hard freaking work. Like you don't accidentally get where you are. You work really hard, and you have a way of working and a way of connecting with people that just aligns. They feel represented by the thing that you do, and they see themselves. Because that's all people want to do. People want to feel less alone. People want to see themselves. So for you to be known for this long, for doing that, a couple of months ago, for the first time ever, you started kind of sharing a bit more of your personal journey. Obviously, this has been a part of your life. You spoke about volunteering for, kids who are not having the best life. You spoke about, doing things out of, for people who didn't have the best pathway, similar to you. So giving to others has been a part of your life for a long time. What was it that was preventing you from speaking about this, and why? What was the moment where you went, I'm going to have to talk about this?
There was a couple of things. When my dad passed away and I was kind of helping look after him, I wasn't coping well at all, and I came to this point where at home I wasn't kind of coping with that, and really severe anxiety. But then at the same time, I'm going to work and having to work as in doing YouTube videos or doing music or whatever. And YouTube is a place that you can't hide. The comments are there, the people are there. Even as someone who is not the stereotypical person that would get commented on, there would still be comments, he looks a bit tired, or do you think he needs a break, or he looks happy, or this was good. So there's that kind of going on. And I would often hear over the years about people that would watch our show that felt really represented by it, as you just so astutely said and noticed. And I kind of went, I'm probably not doing them or myself any service by not just kind of sharing some of that. But I was really, I was worried for two reasons. One of them, because a lot of people that were watching Mighty Car Mods felt like Mighty Car Mods represented them. And they went, we don't feel like we're represented by Top Gear or by Motor Trend or by mainstream media or this. We feel like you guys get it. You got cheap cars, you've got this. And so I decided very early on, I wasn't going to speak about my life at all on the show. It's very rare that I would even talk about doing music. I mean, the episodes, I write all the music for it. I don't in an episode go, I hope you liked it. I wrote all the music, or I did the whatever, and Marty did the servers, and Marty, did it. That's kind of fairly quiet.
You don't
and
use your real name, you're Moog.
yeah, it's which is a nickname I had from based on the theremin, and other synthesizers. And so I kind of felt like the people watching the show deserved better than after a long day or having a tough time sitting down and then hearing about me as well. It's just like, that's unfair. Like, let's just keep it about cars. Politics, no religion, no mental health, no whatever, know about what's going on for me. But I realize, and I can tell just the way that you're sitting now and even the way you're holding yourself, that is an unsustainable way of living your life. Because it's not human. Yeah. It's this fraction of you that is just going, I'm just going to give you this, but by doing that, everything else is quiet. And I actually felt, maybe this is a stronger word than I can find, but for the bluntness of it, I felt a bit dehumanized by it. Right. Because I was like, what's actually going on is I'm having a bit of a struggle. And so I made this film about that, which is called, The Hardest Thing I've Ever Done, a film about life and loss and exercise. And I started doing CrossFit and trying to process, some of my anxiety through that. And I was really in two minds whether to put that out there, because I was crying and I was upset and I was being honest, and I'd never done it before. And I asked my mum about it, and I showed it to her, and she just said, look, if it helps one person, do it. Just one person. And so I released that out into the world, and I'm really glad that I did, because when I meet somebody now and they say, I hear more about people who've seen that film than Mighty Car Mods in the street. And the day after it came out, a guy rode past on his push bike with his family, and he said, I'm out here because of you. I saw your video yesterday. And so I'm hearing all sorts of, amazing stories from people that are getting out. And basically, the film is about me, someone who was going through a really tough time, losing my dad, and also struggling with the feelings associated with that. Just trying to use exercise to point all of that into a better place. And then going and competing in a CrossFit competition. So that's what the film was about.
Choosing to do something quite hard.
Very difficult. And you know what else it was as well, is that music, art, TV, subjective ratings, journalist comments, in the gym, and I've heard people say this before, you can either lift the thing or you can't lift the thing. Someone might go, your form wasn't as good, but you can either lift it or you can't. And I thought there was nothing more human for me at that time to go out onto the battlefield with a bunch of other men who are the same age as me, and women the same age as me, but they're obviously in a different category. I'm in the intermediate men's group from the 45 to 50-year-old category. And there's a workout that's prescribed, and you've just got to do it. And whoever does the heaviest or the fastest wins, and whoever doesn't. There's no comments about whether you like it or not, or whether that style is to your liking, or whether you liked the chords, you just do it or you don't. And so something in that simplicity felt really beautiful for me and very liberating.
How long did it take you to start to figure out the role that exercise was playing in you regulating your emotional state?
It took much longer than it should because, like a lot of people, I was ticking the boxes of what I thought I should do. So I wasn't feeling good and I was going, I meant to go for a run, I meant to eat well, I meant to do this, I meant to do that, I should check in with my mum and I'm kind of doing these things by rote without actually enjoying them. And so some of the times I was going out running, and I don't know if you've ever had this experience, but I felt that as long as I could exhaust myself, then I'd be able to sleep okay at night. So in a way, the running wasn't about the running, it was about exhausting myself. And I would sometimes exhaust myself until I was in tears and then kind of clean myself up, run back home, have a shower, get whatever, so I could go to bed because I didn't want to be awake all night thinking about, my dad or thinking about what was going on for me. So I was using exercise to exhaust myself, which in a way was using exercise like an antidepressant or like alcohol or like a drug.
Yeah, it works until it doesn't. Essentially, there's a point. Same thing. Like eventually, I was not literally unable to outrun the anxiety.
Yes,
I would be
because
okay
wherever
for
you
me.
went, there you were.
Thank you, John Kabat-Zinn. Maybe 45 minutes or so after my run would be okay, but then within an hour, I'd be barking at the walls again.
Yep.
And that's when I was like, I need a doctor.
Yeah.
I need help here.
Yeah.
What do you like if you don't train for a couple of days?
I don't know. I train 8 times a week currently. But I'm
This is why I've got to get into this independent digital shit, because then 8 times.
I mean that's all on Monday though.
Each set doesn't count as a workout.
The other 6 days off. No, I do lots of different stuff. So I do trail running. I do some calisthenics. I see a chiropractor, do lots of balance stuff. I do my CrossFit, and then I do a couple of twice on Sundays, 2 very different things. Not lots of really heavy stuff, but sometimes I go for, when I was away shooting Top Gear, sometimes we couldn't. After a couple of days, I felt like I wanted to, but it didn't feel before like, I have to do it. I have to.
So you're on the road. You're on the road with Mr. fucking garden hose for a bicep vein, JLP.
Yep.
And Beau Ryan.
We hit a lot of gyms in a lot of strange places.
I will bet you did.
We went to the gyms in Italy, in Colombia. JLP and I went for a lot of runs. Beau does a lot of swimming. It's funny, actually, I saw a comment that was like, oh my God, Blair, did you ever get to work out with JLP? And I was like, yeah. Oh my God. I was like, he looks incredible.
He does.
He's he's like 70 years old and he looks amazing.
It is.
I actually don't know how old he is. I think he's like mid-50s, but he looks amazing.
He's about 4 or 5 years older than me now. Did he do his push-ups before you did pieces to camera like he does in Survivor?
No. No, he didn't. No, never saw that. No. I didn't know that was the thing. But he was he's a fit dude, and I like that he can run, and so he and I would do lots of runs together.
Because I've spoken to him about that. Like when he's in like Samoa away from his family for 70 days.
I mean, what he does is a whole different world, a whole different level.
Like I get why you'd want to bang iron hours. Well, I've been away from my family in Fiji for like 6 weeks, and I took sandbags with me and everything. I'd do 3-hour workouts.
Yeah, right.
Otherwise, I'd just be climbing the walls.
I took one rubber band, like one resistance band. So I'd go kind of like worst case scenario, do squats with that, do push-ups with that, do shoulder raise with that, do burpees in your room, 10 burpees every minute or whatever. Oof. But most mornings I'd just try and get up and just go for a run and feel like I could plant myself in that place because it's I'd never made TV before. You would probably have way more of an insight on this. I didn't realize how relentless it would be.
Oh, yeah.
If the sun was up, you're filming.
Yeah.
There's no, let's just hang out for a bit. Let's do whatever. What I did like, certainly the BBC UK crew, they stop for lunch.
Yes.
And so that's amazing. I don't know if that's something that they have to do because of their union or what
say
goes
it
on
is.
like
Absolutely,
that.
Yes.
But what was amazing, I remember looking out, no one's on their phones.
No.
So everybody goes, lunch, and everyone stops, and we have these big, I remember on this farm out in Italy, this big long table, everyone's eating, chatting, talking about cameras, talking about their families, talking about life. And then when it's on again, though, there's no kind of lazy, like they're on again. I wasn't used to that pace. I could do it, but what it meant was if I wanted to go for a run, it's up in the dark, go for a run, get back ready to shoot.
Yeah.
And just an incredibly diverse bunch of people. But yeah, so morning runs, and then sometimes we'd end up. I hope JLP doesn't mind me saying this, but sometimes the gyms and the hotels weren't up to scratch for him,
Wanting,
and so he'd be like, I'd say, how's the gym? And he'd be like, there's like one bike and one whatever. It's like, I'm out of here. And like, he'd go and find a gym. And then sometimes I'd go and meet him down there. And he's lifting heavy and he's lifting strong.
Yeah. Well, he and I will find where's the gym before I'll look at, if I'm booking a com, I'll see what's the gym like there. If not, how close is it? And is it open? Yeah, good. I'm there.
Yeah. It's funny you say that because part of the way through the shoot, he and I started to say, we'd go with the flow and everything, but we started to go, when we're booking our accommodation, can there be a gym there? Just so we can get in there for half an hour.
Yeah.
And Beau would do lots of stretching and lots of mobility stuff. And so the three of us have very, very different kind of ways. I'm very much into CrossFit running and functional stuff, and Beau's really into kind of stretching and prep, and obviously is the real athlete of all of us because he's a pro.
And how many seasons of NRL have damaged his body to the point where it's like, I'd love to lift, but I don't know if I can.
Yeah. And JLP just kind of doing his thing. But I remember we were in Colombia and we went to a pretty rough gym in one of the cities there. And I remember one of the girls working out, just her legs had been, she was just bleeding from her knees, and there were these other rough-looking dudes there that looked like they were dealing. I don't know what was going on there, but the three of us were just in this gym, just going, "This is the real deal, man." There's blood on the floor. There's little scooters coming and going with little deals being made and stuff, and it was just like, man, welcome to Top Gear Australia.
Man, I clearly I could talk to you for a long time, but I'm glad, like I said, I'm really glad that you did it. I'm really glad that I think my industry...
I was scared, man. I was so scared.
That's okay, rightly so. But I think my industry really does not... They need to see someone like you who doesn't need to go and do that job. Like, they've never met a person on camera who doesn't need the gig. All right?
Yeah,
and
that's
for you to
that's
show
a weird
up going
one,
like... Yeah, I can do that. Yeah, I can carve time out. Like, I can, I understand. You understand what this means for my shooting schedule. Like, because for so long in the industry I work in, it's very much like, but we're the only game in town. It's like, no, my industry has to fucking hear this, and they have to see someone like you showing up and just telling them how it is on the other side for them to kind of, because, man, I don't know what the fuck's going to happen.
Yeah. I mean, thank you for saying that. It did feel for me like it was a job that I could make, which was really difficult. I could make a pure decision about just whether I wanted to do it or not. That was it. It wasn't financially incentivized or incentivized by what else was happening in my calendar. It was difficult for me to do because I would have to allocate other resources to handle things while I'm away, and particularly Marty, who's incredible, looked after things for 4 months. Then there was the time before that trying to make extra content, and when I'd be away for a few weeks, come back, we shoot some stuff. But it was definitely one of the biggest things I've done. I'm really proud of what they've done, like really, really proud of it. It's definitely the hardest thing I've done in my career. And it feels like big shoes to fill because the UK show is so fantastic. It's an iconic show. I know there'll probably be comparisons, and I hope people are willing to look at it with the new eyes and go, look, they're three new guys. They're thrown there together. We genuinely do get along really well. Both of them annoy me in different ways, and I know that I annoy the shit out of them because they tell me. I got a message from JLP the other day. He's just like, I think I'd given him like a coffee mug or something. He goes, thanks heaps. Like, the coffee thing's good. Oh, by the way, you're a dickhead. And so I'm like, right back at you. So we have this very, he means it in good jest.
Oh, I understand, yeah.
And so the three of us are just like, just annoy the shit out of each other constantly, but also really, really care about each other.
Well, that will make good telly.
I don't know what makes good telly. What makes good telly?
Certainly what makes any team good, and I know this from Breakfast Radio, that the closer you are off camera, the closer you are off the mic, makes whatever happens on camera or on the mic way better.
Yeah, okay.
So you and Marty, for example, like, you knew each other as mates for a long time before you rolled one piece of tape.
Yeah.
All right? That's the thing. It's like why some breakfast teams, just radio does never work. It's just three people shoved together. They don't know each other. They're not friends.
Do you reckon the audience can... Do you reckon they sniff it? Do you reckon they know?
Yeah, well, they might not be able to put a finger on it. Like, unless you really know what you're looking for. Unless you're not looking for your minor third, which isn't the proper Macca's jingle.
Yeah, right.
Unless you really know what you're looking for, you wouldn't be able... You just know it's just not as good as the other one.
See, that's interesting, because when we first got thrown together, we're like, wow, there's these three guys. One's in his 30s, one's in his 40s, one's in his 50s. Totally different backgrounds.
Show sounds like a radio jingle, like from the 30s, 40s, and 50s.
We've got a guy from
1170.
I really like the guys. I think they really like me as well. We get along really well. We regularly check in on each other via WhatsApp. How are you going? What's happening? and we obviously had to spend a lot of time with each other. And I don't know if that is something that then the audience goes, because if anyone ever goes, oh, you can tell he doesn't like him, that is utter bullshit.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, but I don't know if then the narrative or whatever that, because everyone's looking at relations, right?
Yeah.
Do they like each other? What are the guys like? What are they, whatever? You know what? They're all really unique. Some parts of their personality I'm compatible with, some parts we're not, but I think that's kind of where there's some interesting color, you know?
Man, it's like I said, I'm glad you did it, and I'm stoked you came around. Thanks for coming around, man.
Oh, thank you and thanks for doing what you do, mate. Because it's I've really enjoyed looking at it for like I got stuck in the Osher wormhole, and it was a nice place to be. It was a warm wormhole.
0055
Yeah.
warm wormhole.
Text Osher's warm wormhole to 0055 6969.
They always had numbers.
Yeah.
They always had that.
I don't know what format you're all watching this on, but please give the man a like.
They're there.
Give him a follow.
Yeah.
He's also
Look at you doing the YouTube sign off.
he's also I don't even do a YouTube sign off for myself. I don't think I've ever asked someone to subscribe. But he's also doing the gram, the Instagram, and I know this because I just set up an Instagram Blair Joscelyne. You'll find me, but I just set it up and I followed you. I think I only follow 3 people.
Oh, I'm glad to be followed.
And you're one of them.
Hooray.
And what you also did that's excellent is lots of little cut downs of cool stuff that then I went, that's interesting, and go back and look at the thing.
You're welcome.
Well done. Thank you for having me. It was really cool.